everybody, and welcome back to Reaper Pro Tips with me, your host, Anne. I'm going to say Mad Hatter Quindy, maybe March Hare John, and definitely Dormouse Justin. How are you all today? A little bit of Alice for y'all? Any fans out there? Hello, hello. Yeah, you like that one, Quindy? Dormouse, especially Dormouse Justin. Like, he's totally the Dormouse. Good morning, good morning. My analogies are working today. But Mad Hatter was like always one of my favorites. So, although if you want to, Quindy, you can be the Cheshire Cat. But I think you're more consistent than he is. So, but because I love you, I would let you be. Maybe Kariniko gets to be we can give her an honorary. She gets to be the Cheshire Cat. It makes sense. Oh, awesome, Splat. Awesome. It's good to see you. How you been? Ha. You'll let Kariniko have it? All right, cool. Kuro gets the Cheshire Cat then. Yeah, Cheshire Kuro. I think that's suitable. Very, very suitable. If she smiles and just poofs out of existence, no one will be surprised. I didn't assign the cat. I was thinking Tea Party. I was thinking specifically Tea Party. I thought the cat was at the tea party. If I'm wrong, then we don't need a Cheshire Cat, but Kariniko still gets it. Only if I'm lopping people's heads off, Cranston. I was thinking I was Alice. I'm kind of like the one stuck in the middle of the story, so. Busy with work. Yeah, I feel it. Anne in Wonderland, right? You guys can decide who everybody else is if you want. That's fine. I just started this analogy rolling. I claim no ownership at this point. Oh yeah, pup date. Yeah, I haven't. Maybe I'll show you guys the cool little clicker update that Bridget posted today. There isn't a new pup date up on the Facebook, but there was a pup date that she did yesterday, where even though the puppies are 4 weeks old, she has started clicker with them, clicker training. It's the very, very early stages of clicker training. I need that model to go over here. All right, so let's see. Centaur, hey, we've got a punch list for this. Where is it? Ah, I gotta get all my cards. Right. Awesome. Alrighty. So, still need to deal with some of the leather straps. The wood on the spear we haven't dealt with. We have done most of the bronze NMM, but there's still points. We have the steel NMM mostly done. We need to finish it on the spearhead, though. It's not done on this side, and it's not touched on the other side. The crest and the facial hair we did yesterday. Haha, did the last time we did this model. It depends on if you can give them sufficient treats. Like if you figure out what the right treats. It's all about the treats. And we need to finish the eyes. So really we did the crest. We only did one thing there. So we're going to cross that off of our list still to make us feel accomplished. And yeah, let's work on. I think I'm going to work on the steel NMM today. I want to get that spear done. I want to. If we have time, we'll switch to the bronze NMM and start working on that. So I want to get those. Those are big things, relatively speaking. They take up a lot of room on the model, so I want to get those knocked out if I can. Highlighting the leather straps is so fast because they're quick. Like you don't try to spend a lot of time on the leather straps. You just kind of get them done. So let's see here. So I want some cloudy gray. And then something to throw in there. Technically, if clicker training works on cats, it should work on husbands. I mean, cats are one of the least tractable beings, right? So, though, let's see here. And what do I want to use? I think I was using walnut for my shadows. or brown liner. One or the other. Brown liner, walnut, rogue shadow, something like that for my shadows, or gray liner. Depends on how organic you want to be. Oh, Reaper form is down. As I recall, that could be a thing. I'm gonna do 1 drop of walnut. Oh, come on. Assuming my walnut bottle doesn't want to sit and clog on me. Come on, walnut. What's up? My walnut bottle is persnickety this morning. It's always possible that it's the actual forum like company doing an update or something, but yeah, it could be a Reaper website issue. Report if you don't know, you can always report it. Host error. Yeah. Yeah, you can always drop a flag to like questions at Reaper Mini or help at Reaper Mini, just to let them know. Or yeah, okay, Quindy, let John know. It's good. It's handled. Is handled. John will inform the PTBs, the powers that be. Let's see. I don't remember what color I was mixing into this, but it doesn't look like blue. I think I was using maybe Grave Gloom. Just using something, mostly because this is kind of green and we've got kind of green on the model, so I'm going to just use a little bit of Grave Gloom. You don't want to ever add a lot of color to your gray. You don't want to shift the color. You don't want it to be a green, but adding a little bit of something into your gray helps to kind of change it up a little bit, and it makes it look less artificial. And then I've got my walnut for shadows. I'm going to build pretty much all of my NMM colors all at once. There. So, got a shadow color. And then we'll grab this and pop it over here and make a highlight color. And we'll just do 2 drops of white here. And I'll add in more gray if I have to, because that's going to really pale it out. But that's not a big problem, because I am working up pretty quickly to a lighter color, but I'll add 1 more drop of the gray, and then I will be thinning this a lot, and that's going to take down its impact as well. With 2 drops of pure white, you need to drop at least 2 drops of water in just to cover the pure white. And you probably want to do an extra drop, but we'll get there, because I didn't thin this one very much. So yeah, we're going to need another drop of water in that. My dropper bottles lately are just like very, very not happy. They just don't want to be dropper bottles. It's like they've decided to be different entities. All right. All right, and then a little bit of pure white over here. Man, none of my bottles want to work today. Maybe I'm in like a weird Twilight Zone land where dropper bottles just malfunction. Because like nothing wants to work. Everything is going, no. So you've got a progression there. If I was working on a larger model than this, so like a bust or something, or a 75 millimeter, I would probably have mixed an additional color in here. So I would have more progressions in the middle. But in small, relatively small surfaces, like the fact that we've got all this gold over the blade, and so we don't have big flat surfaces of steel, really. The only one we've got is the axe, and we've already done that. When we don't have big flat surfaces, we can truncate our colors more. So we can abbreviate and go with fewer colors. As long as we hit appropriate highlights and shadows, it's still going to look okay. Yes, the Great Dropper Bottle Uprising. I agree. Alrighty, so today has to be better than yesterday, guys. Yesterday was complete wash for me, and it was so stressful. Like, I haven't felt stress levels that high for a long time. Traveling is always stressful, and I have my my flight arranged for my puppy evaluation coming up because I'm flying out and then driving back. So I had all of this stuff arranged, so all these moving parts would work together. Because, first of all, rental cars are totally rare right now in some areas, especially smaller airports. So I couldn't actually fly into Fargo, where Bridget lives, and get a car because there were no cars to be had. So I'm having to fly into Minneapolis and drive 3 hours back to get to Bridget's to get a rental car, which I need to drive the puppy home. So I have no choice. Then they changed my flight. Boom! All these moving parts just went straight out the window because I couldn't do that flight at all. Like, there was no way. They totally screwed it up. And then I sat there and they wouldn't let me change it on the website. It kept like breaking and it wouldn't work. And I was like, argh! So I had to call the freaking airline. And then you're sitting on hold, right? And you're steaming. Then I get a woman who just cannot, like, her listening comprehension is not good enough for me to explain how she changed it to the wrong thing and how she could fix it. Like, it could have been me, because I was just like, my stress level was like, you know, you can imagine. Hey, Zox, thank you. Is it Zoxy? Zox or Zoxy? I don't know, but you have a cool name, and I agree, the 2 2s and 7s, 72 is my lucky number. And you have subscribed for 23 months. So if you do this one more time during my stream, you get a song, because then it's your double sub-anniversary. So just saying, you might want to do that in a month. If you don't want to hear me sing, don't do it in a month. Okay, it's socks. So it rhymes with socks. Thank you. Yeah, so then I'm on the phone with this woman who just cannot get it. So finally we figure out, like, I get her to figure out how to fix it. And unfortunately, it means I can't come in a day early. So I'm ending up having to do this fly in, drive to Bridget's, fall into bed, wake up, and do the puppy eval, which is not what I wanted to do. I wanted to come in a day early. But that flight was canceled because there weren't enough people for it. My connecting flight was. So then they couldn't do it at all. Or I would get in at midnight, which also wouldn't work because I have to drive 3 hours and I have to pick up a rental car. Not really possible at midnight. So I'm just like, seriously, guys, like, yesterday was a bad day. Stress is bad. And when you have a chronic disease like I do, it's worse. So, because you're conscious that your whole body is freaking out. And so finally I have to come in a day later so I don't get my day to, like, just be with my bestie Bridget and hang out with the puppies and help her with, like, pre-testing setup. And it's just like, oh, I'm just dying. And then I had to go and change the rental car too. And it turns out the only way to change the rental car with the way I had been doing it was to cancel it and rebook it for more money because it's later now. It's closer to rental date. It would have been even more expensive. So then at that point, I'm just like one big tack nuke, right? I'm just one emotional big tack nuke, totally. Blowing up all over the place. And I'm already stressed about money for this because this is going to be a very expensive trip to get this puppy. And the puppy is also, you know, money. So I'm freaking out. So finally I go running around the internet and I land on Budget Rental Cars website. And they're one of the companies that's at Minneapolis. And I see, hey, give us your email and we'll give you a discount. And then I see, hey, you know, if you pay up front, we'll give you an even bigger discount. And I'm like, fuck, done. So I canceled my reservation and I ended up saving $400. Which is a win that I needed so desperately at that point, you know? Like, oh, but I was almost shaking at the end. I was just so like, oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Whew! So it has a happy ending, except that I miss out on that day, right? That I wanted to, be there a day early so Bridget and I could play around with the puppies and do some pre-tests. So I can't do that, but at least I save money on the freaking rental car, which is going to be expensive because it's almost for a full week, right? And these days, that's really, really... Yeah, like, because it's very expensive. It's $1,500 a rental car. Normally, I got it down to $1,100. So, yeah, right. It's when you go out, plug in my Patreon so that I can afford to go and get this puppy, right? David's paying half, right? We're not married yet, so we don't have a co-account together to like pull this stuff out of, which will make it much easier. But he is paying half, so at least there's that. But it's still, oh man. Like I hate it when there are hiccups in my travel anyway, and it stresses me out majorly. So this was just like one day, and I didn't get, to add to the stress, I didn't get any Patreon work done because that took all afternoon to freaking figure this out and to make sure that it was resolved. So then it's stress because I'm not doing what I need to do for you guys, for those of you who are my patrons. For those of you who are not my patrons, you do not care. But yeah, so that's my odyssey of yesterday, guys. And yeah, there you go. All my socials, please support me. I desperately need it. Oh my God. It was just you've got these, some days you've just got those days. And that was a those day. That was it. Ugh. It was so awful. Like David came home, he took one look at me and he's like, "You are so stressed right now." And I'm like, "I know." But hopefully it's settled. Disappointing, but it's settled. All right, so actually I'm going to thin this base color just a little bit more, both to keep it wet for longer and to blend it with the top of the spear here. So we'll get a little closer so you guys can see this better. But yeah, so money stress and work stress and travel stress all on the same day is just like so, and I mean, it's not like a serious problem. Like it's not like I was able to fix it, right? But just so much stress. Man, I hate being stressed. I also have decided that even though I have been an American Airlines customer for a very long time, this really, this trip, this is really kind of making me reconsider that. I have some friends who speak highly of Delta, so maybe I will try them. I used to go American just because I had a ton of airline miles with them, just a metric ton. But I've worked through all those now. So yeah. Yeah, right. Yeah, Zox, that's really, really hard, right? And these days, there's so many cancellations, right? It's just, you gotta hope that your pilot gets the plane in a little bit early for your connection instead of like, getting late and then finding out your connecting flight has been canceled or something, So I'm gonna do white lines, guys, all around all these edges. So that's what we'll be doing when we talk about how travel is annoying. So this is something Sergio does. It's very stylistic. It's not really realistic, but it does tend to help to make a non-metallic metal surface look shinier. And it even can help your metallics look better. If you use a color like pearl white, which is a white metallic, or if you use a very, very bright metallic, like I like the Vallejo Model Air Chrome. That can be used too. It's not a white metallic, though. It doesn't give you quite the same pop, but it's another option if you have that. But pearl white, I highly recommend. White metallics are just so versatile. You can mix stuff with them to create your own kind of pastel, silk, and satin metallics. And you can use them to highlight both gold and silver. So I do recommend pearl white. 9100 is the SKU if you don't have it. We haven't done metallics for a while. I'll probably do metallics on one of these big elemental cyan models coming up. So we'll come down here also and we'll do a white edge around the lower part. You can see even how that's kind of bringing everything up. Yeah, Agent Marvel, I think that I'm not going to travel again for a while. I mean, it kind of helps that I have a new puppy now, that I will have a new puppy, and the new puppy means too much of a baby to have a puppy sitter or to be taken to a kennel. And so I'm just going to stay home. Oh, wife and daughter are positive for COVID. I'm so sorry, Kodiak. Yeah, well, that's good. Super mild symptoms. That's good. But yeah. Oh, and taxes. Oh my God. And so yeah, Gen Con, and then the guilt, right? Because taxes but Gen Con. Oh yeah. Oh, all the hearts, I can't finger heart because I'm holding a model, but half a finger heart for you. Tiny finger hearts for Kodiak, everybody. Because yeah, right? Like I should not, I'm in your boat. I shouldn't be spending money right now, but I'm committed to this puppy trip. I've got to do it. And it just seems like the costs are all just like mounting. And I'm just like, oh. So yeah, all the feels, man. I get it. I'm so there. Yeah, all the feels, guys. Yeah, Ruby Red's a pretty good red metallic. You could also make a red metallic with gold flake, although it tends to be a bit orange. It's more like there used to be a red steel metallic. That was more of an orangey flake. All right, so we've got a highlight up here. We wanted to go and put another reflective highlight kind of in line with that. So we're going to pop that down there. Yeah, red steel. Yeah, retro red steel. It was limited. Yep. Yeah, the red steel was a different flake entirely. And it's not a flake we normally keep on hand at Reaper because only one color would use it. So it's like you try to not have, extra stock on hand that you only like use for one thing, right? There's all sorts of considerations on stuff like that. So darkening down right below the highlight on the tip of that blade, but then I need to bring it back up. But yeah, so Travel Odyssey. I'll get a pup date at in about 15 minutes, guys. We'll watch the little video of Grog getting his first ever clicker training. She has videos for the girls too, but she doesn't have them up yet, so. And it's a pretty long video, but we'll watch a little bit of it. Bridget does not shirk on the videos. Like, she will put out 5-minute videos regularly. I don't want to derail the stream for 5 minutes of puppy. Much as y'all would love it if I did. So just kind of bringing up that lower edge with some light there. Keeping that shadow dark. I'm going to minimize that shadow now. I'm going to take my base coat color, thin it down a bit so it's translucent, and I'm going to minimize that shadow just a little bit. I want that band of shadow to be pretty thin because it would be really thin in real life. It wouldn't be like super thick. Usually you barely can see the band of shadow. Unless you've got like a chrome surface, then you usually see it a lot harder. But it often is just a suggestion. And we're over accentuating it because we're working with 28mm models where we're accentuating everything. I think I'm going to bring in a little bit more shadow in here though. Just down. So we can do the banded effect where we've got bands of light and shadow a little bit here. Where it cuts in is kind of a logical place to put a shadow. So I'm going to pop that right in there in the bottom of the blade. Grog is the big sable boy. And he was the first one she videoed. He's the juggernaut of the litter. Like, he's been the biggest since the first. So he pretty much knows that if he just walks through other puppies, he'll win. Because he's so much bigger than they are. He's just a monster. He's a monster boy. I think a lot of people are going to want Grog, like, of the people who want boys. Because sable, for one thing, is the most popular color in our breed. And he just has a great temperament. He's super, he's a super enthusiastic. Like, you guys will see it in the video. Once she starts actually using the clicker and he gets treats, like, his tail does not stop wagging. Except that I don't have a be right back moment. Although I might once the puppy is here. We might have to take like, if we are streaming once we have the puppy and the puppy wakes up after a nap, I'm going to have to rush the puppy outside while she's a baby anyway. So we will probably have to, from time to time, we'll have to take a puppy and rushes the puppy outside break. If she wakes up and she doesn't settle again. Only 5 minutes. Curse, this is a painting show, not a puppy show. If you guys want the puppy show, I'm thinking about getting the puppy a YouTube channel. All right, so now I want, I've got a nice kind of white edge painted in. I haven't got it all the way though, so I should do that. I should make sure I've got this edge of the model with a nice white line. You can use the edge of your brush, or you can just paint it on if you've got good control. You want that white edge all around. Yeah. Yeah, they're adorbs. The puppies are adorbs, for sure. Sadly, I'd hoped that I could go to our national dog show for our breed, which is in October, but I'm going to have to cancel it. I just won't have the cash after all of this stuff. Gonna have to just put it off. I hate to do it because I'm on the board and I like to go. Really enjoy the weekend with my dog folks, a lot of whom are very good friends of mine for the past 10 years or so. But yeah, just it's too expensive. Too long of a drive, like too soon after I bring the puppy home. All right, I'm gonna pop this in. Pop a little bit more light there. So now we've got a little bit more shinies going on. This will be close enough to a puppy show once you guys get your puppy cam. If you're not, like, I'm sure you'll all be watching the puppy more than you're watching me at that point, so. All right, the bottom edge is a little rough here. So I do want to get that white line in there. A little bit of light there, extra bit of light there, little extra bit of light down here. And this is just little adjustments now where I'm just like, okay, what's going to make it look shinier? That's pretty good. I do want to work into that. Yeah, that's about right. That looks good. All right, so let's now take the other side. We actually should do the top. So, of course, these kind of edges don't exist in real life because, you know, a spear would be much thinner. But unfortunately, because of molding, we do run into this where we've got this weird flat top to our weapons. So we're going to right away just take the white and edge all around it. And then we're going to do a very, very basic, just NMM light to dark to light again. And that's the way you tackle these weird flat areas on blades. You don't want to paint it dark, even though that's a tactic for doing it on, like, say, underlying areas. If you want them to kind of disappear, paint it dark. But here, it's just too visible. So we can't really do that and have it work. So first we'll do our white edge, which I've mostly got on, but I want to kind of make a little nicer. You can use the side of your brush to do this. Make sure you don't have a lot of paint on your brush. And even then, you can still blurf like I just did a little bit. I want to get this in focus. So 1 second while I get this in focus. Got to give everything more to focus on. There we go. Sweet. So use the edge of the brush. You can always touch it up. We've got that. We've got an edge around the whole thing. I wouldn't do it Kodiak because this is, look at how much filing it to an edge would totally take off all of this. I mean, and you're also going to just change the shape of the blade. You're also going to make it super fragile if you narrow it down. If you try to do it in scale, that's the problem. I actually have a couple of models. I have a scale 75 model that is in scale for the sword, and it's such a super thin blade that it's already broken once and it's cracked along its length because it's just too easy to bend. So I would not go for realism on 28 millimeter models for that reason. When you got that, the only way you could do it is if you actually, and somebody I knew had this, but if you did like brass blades where they're strong, even when they're thin, and you just substituted, like you just chopped this off and resculpted the haft and you did a brass blade and then painted that, you could do that. But then you have the problem that if you drop it on your foot, you're going to spear your foot. But yeah, it's a matter of stability is why they're this thick, even though it's not in scale. But I would take this and take the durability over us trying to make it a super thin blade. But on this one, yeah, you'd lose all this detail if you tried to do that. So instead, I just paint it simply and move on. I don't obsess about it. So here, this is pointed down, slightly down, which means you've got light hitting mostly here. And you can get away with putting a slight shadow underneath that and then blending back up to a highlight out here. And that's how I would tackle it. It's not strictly realistic, but then neither is the fact that this exists. So I really just want something basic. So I'm going to make a shadow right under that top highlight. Yeah, I knew historical guys who always substituted like little tiny forged brass or, you know, stuff, real metal blades on their models. But they did point out that then you can really, like, if you accidentally like put your hand into the box and you don't remember that you have a bunch of like little tiny steel blades in there, you're going to kind of poke yourself. I don't think it's worth it personally. It's a tiny detail on a model that you can otherwise paint great and nobody's going to notice because they're used to it. It's a convention of casting. So yeah, it is up to you though. I mean, if it's worth it to you, if you really feel like if it bothers you, then yeah, you could work on it and you could do it, figure out ways. I mean, I mentioned brass because it's one of the easiest things to buy in sheets, and in like a way that you could do it, or you could hammer down a brass rod, hammer it flat and then forge it, you know, kind of shape it with diamond files and stuff. You could find, I'm sure there are tutorials online. But yeah, so putting that dark shadow there is nice. It gives our blade a little bit of dimension. And then I'm going to put it up here. So this is not at all realistic, again, but it does deal with the surface in a simple way. But yeah, most models I just don't feel, especially like small 28s. Like this guy's big, so you kind of notice it, but little 28s, I'm just like, it is what it is. So there. So we've got a nice gradient, and it looks good when we look at it from the side. So we're good there. Now we can go into the other side. So see, simple treatment, but it works. And actually, you're going to repeat that treatment if you look, although I did this a little differently. I have to actually fix that a little bit. But you can repeat that treatment if you want on the other side here by doing, again, a tiny little shadow up at the top and then blending it out. But yeah, I am at heart like somebody who really wants to paint a model that I like without doing a lot of work to the model. There are exceptions for those of you who watched my personal stream and saw all the conversion work I did on the werewolf that I'm painting. But it's rare. That is so rare that I choose to do something like that. Mostly, I just want to paint the model. And so something like redoing the blade is just like, unless it's a model that I absolutely adore more than life and I want it to be perfect, then I could see doing it. But it would have to be an amazing model, and the blade would have to really bug me as it was done for me to put that amount of work into it. So a little bit of shadow there for a little bit of contrast. Now let's do our white lines around everything. You can see how our white kind of leaked over on this side because we did not have we weren't paying attention, so we had some blobulence on the other side. Blobulence is a technical term. But yeah, the amount of work that you want to put in your models is up to you, of course. But nobody is going to like look at this mini. Like if you painted this mini for a competition, nobody's going to look at that mini and go, oh, the blade is too thick. Like nobody's going to do that. Like, okay, maybe that one guy. But the judges, they're going to be like, we're going to just judge the mini as is. Now, if you miss a big mold line, they're going to judge that against you. But just the fact that the sculpt has to be thick to mold properly, nobody's going to hold that against you for model choice. Unless it's really overdone. But even then, you just call in the Final Fantasy rule, and yeah, your oversized weapon is just fine. But yeah, I have learned kind of over the years, though, especially being a staff painter for Reaper. I used to be much more persnickety about which models I enjoyed painting. Like, I'd be like, oh no, I have to work on a model that's really not, you know, as high quality as X or Y, right? But I have to paint it because it's a Reaper model and it's on my quota. But, you know, over time, I just got over that. I'm just like, who cares? All the models have something that I like on them. Like, I learned to look for the things that I liked on the model instead of the things I was persnickety about on the model. And this, I think, is definitely something you get as a staff painter. But if you're a painter like you're just a competition or display painter, like David, you still have that kind of mindset where you're just like, the model must be perfect for me to want to paint it. And I felt like I actually witnessed that mindset like dying in me as I painted for Reaper. I just realized that if I was going to be happy in my job, I needed to enjoy something about every miniature, no matter if I didn't feel the sculpt was something that I would normally paint or not. And so I think I am grateful to the job for that, because it's like I still see like there are some painters who are like, oh, I will paint a model for your company, oh, but I'm going to have to pick the one I want because otherwise I'm not going to like it enough to paint it, right? And it's like I don't have that attitude anymore. It's like I can look at the ugliest model and still find a way to enjoy painting it. I mean, I regularly paint ancient bad models for George R.R. Martin and I enjoy them anyway, so you know, it's just like it's a mindset. So that's why I think these clunky sword blades and things, they don't bother me. Like, I'm not looking for perfection. I'm just looking for, can I enjoy painting it? So, and I feel like commission painters and army painters and staff painters get over the kind of the, you know, turn your nose up at it if it's not perfect mindset pretty fast. Like, it might not be like, it could be a model that is totally against my own aesthetic and I would still find a way to enjoy painting parts of it. Like, it's just the way. And I'm much happier this way. Not sweating those details, not complaining about, like, it's funny because I'll show David a model that I like, and he'll immediately pick out the things that are wrong with it. And I'll be like, yeah, but I don't care. So there is something to be said, guys, for cultivating, you know, because I think new painters start with that. You just think it's a cool model. And then over time you start realizing, oh, that's kind of a clunky sculpt. Oh, that's kind of muddy there. Oh man, I don't like that face. The way they did the face, I don't like that. You know, and it informs your buying choices. But I think we get pickier as we get more experienced in the hobby sometimes. And sometimes I feel like that can go too far. Like, not always. Obviously, you should pick models that really inspire you. I mean, I still do that. But I'm not going to nitpick one thing on a model, you know? Well, yeah, you can always make up something, right, Pendrake? But most of us, I mean, I'm not going to paint this crystal because it doesn't fit the model. That's the danger of that. And that depends. See, that does bother me. It's funny. I could paint a clunky blade like it's metal and not have a problem with it. But if you paint it crystal, you better have a reason. That's my idiosyncrasies right there. But it's worth thinking about, like, you know, like things that bother you on a model and why, and is it really that important? It's easy to get hung up on little stuff. Because I know, I mean, come on, we're gamers. A lot of us are kind of OCD. I see you. I feel it. And so I feel like, you know, not that we're going to really, you know, shove our OCD out the door in 2 seconds, but just, you know, just being conscious of it, right? Being conscious of when we're getting a little bit too obsessive or a little too nitpicky. Kind of backing off and giving ourselves some breathing room. There we go. So now we've got nice white edges on that blade. It already looks better. Uh-huh, yeah. Well, at least, you know, sprue cuts and stuff, that's just a bit of green work and cutting. Like, usually you can fix it. It's annoying. But is it going to stop you from buying the figure, right? See, that's the question. It's like, if you otherwise love the figure, some people wouldn't. Some people would say, oh, I hate that and I hate fixing those problems. I'm just not going to buy the figure, even if they otherwise like it. Even if they otherwise love it. So, yeah, I don't know. I just like that I can find something to like, even about a model that has maybe some titchy parts, right? That are just kind of not as good or not as sharp or not as whatever. So even just look at how even just putting those white lines around the edges, guys, kind of makes it look metallic. Yeah, right. Yeah, it can be a sculpting. It can also be a casting issue, Zox, depending, right? Depending on the material. Like, you will get mold shifts sometimes from right to left. Like, you'll get a face that compresses a little bit in the sculpt, depending on if it's a traditional sculpt. Obviously, in ZBrush, that's not the case. But in ZBrush, there's no excuse, the way I understand it, and I'm not an expert, but there's really no excuse for lopsided because you can just mirror. So unless you went in and changed it after the fact, you can't afford to be that picky, right? But yeah, so there's a lot of stuff that can happen to cause a shift from side to side in a model. Not even like the mold line shift, like, because 2/2 of a mold can slide, but most companies are good with how they place their mold lines these days. But a sculpt, if it's a green, can absolutely deform a little bit in the mold, just enough. And especially if it's over a face, like, that is so evident to us because as humans, we're really sensitive as far as symmetry in our faces. So, yeah, I've encountered that before. There was one model, I don't remember what model it was, but it was an old Werner clock model where it just had shifted a little bit in the mold because the head, I think, was tilted just a little bit, and it just wasn't symmetrical. So yeah, sometimes you have to do a little bit of paint plastic surgery on those. And it's not always, sometimes it's a sculpt, but sometimes it's mold shift. All right, so now we've got our nice little white lines that makes us look nice and shiny and sharp, but we need some shadows, otherwise it's not going to really look metal. I find it really helps me when I'm looking at a model. If I find myself starting to kind of be nitpicky about it, like when I'm trying to choose a new model to paint, if I find myself going into that, oh, but blah, 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 you know, mindset, I make myself stop and I just reorient and go, what do I really like about this model? What am I going to really enjoy painting on this model? And if I can get to that mindset, I'm much happier in general. There's always going to be little things on every model you paint that you're just like, eh. There's been very few models in my experience of painting where I've just been happy with every detail over the whole model, where the whole model was just a joy to paint, a literal joy to paint. They exist. Those models do exist. But almost every model has some small detail that you're going to be like, arg, why? You know? So in those cases, it's nice to just look at all the things on the model that you really like. Especially if you find yourself running out of steam because you painted the parts you like and you're on the part you don't like, and now, you know, you don't want to finish the model because you're not enjoying it. reminding yourself of all the pieces on the model that you did really enjoy and that look really good can help you power through kind of that ennui of the, oh, but I'm not enjoying painting the wings, or oh, but I'm not enjoying X or Y. It can be a motivator if you really enjoy finishing stuff. We talked a bit last week about why we paint and what rewards us when we paint. So if you're a finisher, like, you can maybe utilize that to get yourself to the line. And almost all of us, no matter what motivates us primarily, almost all of us do enjoy finishing a model. For me, it's more the journey, and so often I have to stop, and if I get in a spot where I'm like, oh my god, wings, I hate wings, or whatever I'm on, whatever piece I'm on, I'm not really enjoying, I remind myself that there is something I can learn from this. If I make it a little more interesting, maybe I should take a different tactic with it. If I can make any part of it interesting, that will keep me going. Even if it means changing the color scheme a little bit or doing it a little differently. Right, Agent Marvel. Yes, you've had your standards drops. Now you're good. And that's a thing, right? Like, if you paint a lot of kind of half crappy plastic minis, and then you get a really nice sculpt from a company, it just kind of blows your mind how awesome it is. Some of the resin shops in Europe who do like busts and big models, like, the models are just so high quality, like, it just makes me swoon. Like, just like opening them is just like, oh my gosh. So a bit of shadow there, just to darken it down and make it a little bit more interesting. Bring up the highlight on the blade, bring up the highlight on the bottom of the blade. I am going to put that same shadow on this side to break up the edge. We're doing Sergio on the edges. We may as well do kind of that light and dark banding on the blade. And I need to also put that dark shadow on this lower edge. Bits of it here and there. And I need to put a shadow right under this as well. So, dark line. Just kind of blocking it in. Then I'm going to take my base coat. I'm going to blend it in. Oh, hey, it's past pup date time. Hold on. I'm going to finish blending in this, and then we'll pup date. All right. Yay. That's getting there. NMM takes a while. They're not all bad sculpts. Mold lines. Yeah. Alrighty. Let's see here. We go to the Book of Faces. All right, so hold on, I gotta get this full screen. So this is charging up the clicker. Just Grog alone with Mom.
Oh, goodness. Oh, goodness. We're adorable.
He's adorable.
We are adorable. So, we have a spoon. And look at this.
Clicker.
So, what are we going to do about this, huh? What's going on? I can tell you. I can tell you what's going to happen. Oh, look at that. Wow. Oh, man.
Look at the tail.
Delish. He's saying, oh, I'm going to find that whole bowl. I might have to rethink my setup. Come here, boop, boop, boop. It's a good thing I brought potty pads.
He just had a potty over in the corner. Oops.
Oh boy, you'll be adorable over here. Okay, yeah. You didn't even flinch to that. You didn't. That was really
Move the tail.
loud. I didn't mean to. It was really loud and I didn't mean to. I'm just so happy with how happy you are. I am. I am. Change tactic, okay? You ready? You come in. Are you coming? Boop, 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 boop.
He's like, but Kim.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Oh, look at that. Food makes us so happy.
So there we go. So it's a very long video, so I'm going to pause there. Let me see if I've got just some general pictures. Let me see. That's too loud. Let's see. Looking for some general pictures. There's a lot of videos. I just don't want to get mired in the videos. So many videos. Yeah, I need like pictures. Oh, there's Pike. We have a new picture of Pike. So that's Purple Girl, Lavender Girl. And she looks a lot like her daddy, who's the sire of this litter here. And that was his picture at the same age. So a little bit different. He looks more like the retriever head, and she's got more actually the Shiloh head, in my opinion. Let's see here. Let's see, is that a video? Zammy playing with the puppies. She's up on there like trying to just like taunt them. So Zammy plays with the puppies really well. I gotta get that out of there. There. So there you go, guys. You've had pup date. Pup date. Pup date. Oh, pardon me while I blow my nose. It's been a little bit allergy this morning. A little bit allergy. So yeah. She has a white spot. I don't think it's a heart. Vex, Pink Girl, has a white W for the win. Yeah, I mean, it's like a blaze. You could maybe see it was heart-shaped. It seems got two little dabs. This will change probably as she gets bigger. Oh, there's a cute one. Remember the pipe that Bridget brought? It has a capacity of 3.5 puppies. And that's actually Pink Girl's little face. You can see her little pink collar there. She's sleeping in the duct. They're so silly. Pendrake, there are actually 4 big dogs at Bridget's household. There is Zam herself, who's the mom of the puppies. Then there's Nova, who is Zam's mom. And then there's, in one of the video we showed yesterday, you saw Kobuk, who is her big boy. And then she has a puppy that she's actually looking for a home for, or a dog, I should say. She's looking for a home for a smooth coat girl who's very, very energetic and very high drive, like much more of a working dog temperament. That's Platy. Platy was supposed to go to Europe, but then the pandemic hit. So Platy ended up staying with Bridget, but it was really hard to get out and socialize during the pandemic. Like there were pandemic kids, well, there are also pandemic puppies. It's a thing. So Platy did not get the socialization that she needed. And she's like, Bridget's just working with her anxiety and stuff like that. And she's trying to find a really good home for Platy that can handle her, that will do right by her. So I honestly would have taken Platy if I hadn't wanted a dog that was Platy would be too much for David. Let's just put it that way. So I have to be conscious of the fact that David has never had a dog before. So getting some high drive, really anxious, needs a lot of work dog is not in the cards. Not in the cards. Because we do get that high drive working temperament in Shilohs every once in a while. It's the throwback to the old German Shepherd lines. And we see it. We do see it. But yeah, Platy just had a perfect storm of bad stuff happen. Where the European people didn't want her. And then they couldn't import her. His mom was allergic. Lord Zephyrius. So they couldn't have any animals when he was growing up. No animals at all. So yeah, no dogs. Until we had Kiri. He experienced Kiri. And he liked Kiri. So that's why we were getting a puppy. But yeah, his mom's allergies have actually, gotten better over the course of her life. So they should still be able to visit, but I'm making the guest room a dog-free zone. just in case. So bringing up the highlight on the underside of this. It's important to note you still have that shadow. You need that shadow, you need the contrast to give that illusion of shine. Especially on the underside of the blade. On the top side of the blade I could get away with a lot less shadow just because it's facing upward and light is hitting it, but... yeah, a lot of game store people aren't actually miniatures people, so they just don't even think about it. Like, in my experience, it's rare to find a game store owner that's, like, well and truly into, like, miniatures in general. Like, you may find one that really likes Games Workshop or particular miniatures board games, but often they got into other facets of the gaming hobby, and so they don't really know or understand why it would even be a problem to just put all your Reaper next to all your WizKids. Or isn't it all D&D minis? You know, that's the way kind of the thinking goes. There we go. Oh, bye, Crowley. Have fun at the meeting. Yep, but I mean, it happens, right? David is living proof. Pets just weren't a priority, I mean, and with his mom's allergies, they just weren't they weren't even in the cards, so... I'm going to put a little bit more of a shadow at the back of the blade here. Just because I think it'll look nicer. And I'll blend it up. That's looking pretty good. Okay, let's look at my bronze here. Pretty sure rich leather, ruddy leather, and boop. Got all my cards here, yeah. Now it is time to work more on the bronze because we haven't done the bronze at all over here, and we need more on the helmet. We did the belly plate though, we're pretty good there. So let's grab our rich leather and our ruddy leather. Those are the colors that we're using together. And keep my walnut around because that will help us get darker shadow. Walnut mixed with ruddy leather makes a pretty good dark brown. You could also use blackened brown. We get our base color mixed up, which is our rich leather, 9429. You know, Agent Marvel, WizKids have gone back and forth with their miniatures lines so many times, like trying to figure out what works, you know, trying to figure out, you know, the sweet spot, and they keep changing it up. So it's like, question mark? It makes me wonder if anybody on their, like, product development team is actually really into miniatures. And I'm kind of inclined to think maybe not. Like, maybe they're just, like, talking to gamers, like... Or maybe they've just, you know, I have no idea at this point. Like, it just seemed like from way back in the chainmail days, which was, you know, 20 years ago, it's just seemed like they're kind of out of touch with the hobby, which is a danger in a big company, right? You have people developing products who aren't part of the culture, and then you get these question mark looks, right, from your customers going, what are you doing? Like, why? Why? Yeah, so I don't know, as a hobbyist, just even as just not even somebody who worked in the industry, but just from my hobbyist self, it always seemed to me like WizKids didn't really understand like what market they were going for and what the hobby like was really, what would have been really successful over the course of the hobby. Although apparently, you know, they've got to still be making money off of it because You know, there are people who buy this stuff and probably buy a lot of it because they keep doing miniatures, right? So obviously they know there's money there. But I mean, just because they don't cater to our idea of what makes a good miniature doesn't mean they aren't selling a ton of the stuff. Right, and so it can serve as a quote unquote entry level drug, right? Kodiak. So, and then you get more into the hobby, and Games Workshop serves the same kind of thing. Although it's maybe more common for people to kind of stay in that ecosystem because once they're invested in the games, they'll stay and they don't look outside as much. But there are also people who start with Games Workshop and then discover the other miniatures and companies and, you know, get into the hobby as a whole. Yeah, I agree on that, Crows. It's very hit or miss. Right, Agent, exactly. That's just a thing. Right, yeah, that's totally something that will appeal. I'm going to grab my rich leather and actually mix it up with a little bit of lemon yellow to get a highlight. And then we'll proceed with more bronze. More bronze. More cowbell. Yeah. Boop. There. Oh, and I do need to work on the back of the axe here too. I just realized that. And the front, the top. So I'm going to actually do that real quick. Let me get back in focus. This model is so deep, like, and so wide that it can be hard to get the camera to focus really well. Little highlight there, little white there. Forgot we had to do the top part of that blade. Right, exactly, Turgeon. They're official. They're licensed. So for those who want the licensed product or who need specific monsters that don't fall under OGL, it's totally a thing. There we are. White stripe along the bottom. And then I want to hit the back a little bit here. Now the back of the blade here is right up against the model. It's not going to be seen a lot. You can see it there. Oh yeah. Yeah, well, and Critical Role capitalized on them. I mean, who watched Critical Role, like, except, you know, if you were a D&D fan, you were like, whoa, voice actors playing D&D together? Let's do it, you know? So, I mean, I would say that both Critical Role benefited from, you know, being D&D, and now it's flipped, right? I think they've definitely helped each other. I feel like it's an organic process there. So I'm giving that shadow right on that blade. You can see it right there, guys. Now I'm going to do a little bit of a highlight, but you don't have to do a lot. I'm going to kind of switch over here so I can get a better look at there. Always move the model around when you're painting. Don't try to contort your brush hand. Try to get as close to a natural brush position for these weird angles as you can. So just a little bit of highlight in there. Now I'm going to tackle the back, which I can see a lot better. But yeah, I mean, there's Stranger Things, which is also, you know, has publicized D&D. This is a very D&D friendly. I mean, it's why we're seeing that new D&D movie coming, right? Is because it's the perception that it's popular. I mean, D&D, I would almost like to see a study on how popular, if this is the most popular Dungeons and Dragons has ever been, because I think it must be. It must be, this must be its kind of peak. Because it was so underground, right, for so long. And now you've got, a major super popular show that uses a lot of like D&D references and tropes, even if it's not really D&D, they're still like using a lot of references. And then you've got Critical Role, which is, super popular as well. Which I think is, I just like to see that our little gaming hobby that for so long was a little like pariah, geek kid in the corner getting beat up by jocks is now, and it probably, it helped that the genre like became popular in video games because video games were for a while, it seemed like they were more socially acceptable. Yeah, we don't talk about that one, War Shadow. I'm sure this new one isn't terrific either, but the monster special effects look great, and I would go just for the monster special effects. If you were a D&D-er, it was fun, right? David didn't even know there was a D&D movie before. I'm like, because I showed him the trailer to the new one, or I sent it to him. I don't know if he actually watched it. All right, so just putting in some quick highlights. I'm going to put in another little quick shadow. I'm going to kind of put a dark shadow right here by the leg because really no light would be hitting it. I like the owlbear. I thought the owlbear was well done. Why shouldn't druids be able to polymorph into an owlbear? If you can polymorph into a bear, you should be able to polymorph into an owlbear and an owl. If you could polymorph into a bear and an owl, you should be able to make an owlbear. That's just, I think so. I see where that's going, and I approve. So dark shadow there. So you just got a little bit. You just want to put a little bit of work into it. Yeah, that's kind of yeah, what I'm feeling, Turgeon. I might go watch it, even though it's probably going to be very old jokes and like not a lot of like, super originality in its plot. But if it's fun, then awesome. Some movies they just gotta be fun. I have very high standards for witticism in movies, like, because I grew up in the 80s. So I appreciate good writing, but campy movies have a place too. Campy D&D movies definitely have a place. All right, so just a little bit there, just to give us a little bit of work on the back of that axe. Yeah, the problem is CR. Essentially, what you'd have to do, honestly, what you'd want to do is like, if you were going to do a true shapeshifter like that with druids, you'd pretty much just want to assign them a certain number of hit dice, no matter what form they were in, and they can't like take any of the creatures like special powers that are unique, So the more powerful a druid you are, maybe the more powerful a wild shape you can take, right? Like, I could see that. I think you should get, like, flying and swimming, like, within reason, like, if you take the shape. I don't know. I'd have to think about it. As a GM, I know there are so many ways for players to game the system, and most of them, you know, are tried by players. So I've had some pretty bad munchkins in my games when I was running D&D in the olden days. Pretty bad, like, rules tweakers. So I get it. I don't know. But you still want it to be fun. There we go. Just touching up now. Yep, okay. Yeah, flying just makes you, like, you have to kind of redesign and rethink about the way that traps work and stuff, and... Let's put in some highlights here. Yeah, it is rough. I mean, it's hard to... GMs are always forced to kind of think on their feet with players, right? And... it is, of course, always our prerogative to say no in the name of game balance. But I think the owlbear does not offend me. The owlbear, for a powerful druid, I think is a perfectly reasonable wild shape. A little bit highlight. Yeah, the DM for the movie. You got it, Vin Panda. Like, the DM for the movie, you allowed it. Perfect. Perfect. Oh, you don't like it, Crow? It's a bummer. I kind of do like it. I don't think that owlbears are OP'd. Like, if your character is like a level 8 druid, I don't remember what CR, like, an owlbear is, if it's like 6 or 8 or what, but, like, if your character is the level of the creature, I think, it's not like owlbears, like, have any super special abilities, so that'll break the game. They're just big, strong, and nasty. So that's why I can see it. But yeah, totally, if you can't see it, I totally respect your opinion. I will not play an owlbear druid in your game. Just going to put a little bit more red in here. I'm going to grab a little bit of my dark to bring things in a little bit darker here. Let's kind of bring in a shadow. It's hard to do big stuff like this. Like big areas that are broken up with all of this special stuff. You kind of have to just paint it in a bar and ignore the filigree for a while. Paint it just like as if it was a flat area. Yeah. So you can, I'm all for house rules. Like I like to give the players like stuff that makes them super happy that doesn't break my game. So yeah, I would just figure out a way to make it work. And then as they got higher in level and it made more sense, then they would get more of the stat block. I just think it makes sense to limit depending on the level. Alrighty, so kind of bring in just a general light area there, and then down here the same. Ah, I see. Yeah, so yeah, there's the silly factor too. Though I was thinking about this the other day, because I was thinking about Critical Role because we were watching the cartoon, right? And I'm like, I think every D&D game on Earth, like, except for, like, maybe there are a few games where people stay really serious, but every D&D game on Earth that I've been a part of has serious comedy silly moments. And, you know, people are in there to have fun, so I get it. But Critical Role just is that, right? It's like you could totally see gamers just doing that stuff because your gamers would do that stuff, right? Your gamers would make the silly decision or make the silly comment or make a terrible pun or, you know. But yeah, I mean, if you're into play, if you want to do a serious game, then I think you kind of have to get the players' cooperation up front. And tell them you'd like to tell a more serious story, but I have been in a couple games which were more serious like that, where the GM really wanted to tell a more serious story and not. There were still like moments, but there. So now we've got a little bit more highlight coming back in. You can see that's changing the look of everything. Now I've got this highlight coming down, glancing right off the surface of the axe. So I am going to do that. I'm going to bring that down, or bring it up, I should say, in this area here. Kind of show that light is glancing down the length of the blade here, which is going to involve lightening the shadows in some of this. Like there's walnut lining here or dark lining. I'm going to actually paint over that with a coat of thin coat of rich leather, just like I did on top, in order to lighten this whole area. And then I can use that rich leather more as a shadow and bring up light going up the blade. Yeah, sometimes the game is nonstop silly, and that can get old. That can get old. You need both, right? So I'm going to lighten up the areas here above this area. I'm going to take it right up. Still going to retain a little bit of shadow up here, but I want to lighten this area in general. Kind of show the light traveling down. Probably the silliest game I ever ran was a fantasy high school game. Or fantasy college. It was like one of the two. I think it was a wizard's school or a magical school. So all of the characters were like different stuff. Like I had a were-lion, I had a tiefling. Like they were all like kind of like magical races, just so to speak. And that was super fun. It was ridiculous. There was much ridiculousness, but it was fun. All right, so we got kind of that line of light coming down. Now I'm going to actually accentuate the filigree to bring that light down. So we want the tops of these to really catch the light. So we can see that coming down. And we gotta make sure this also, this part up here is very light. Maybe we'll bring up a little bit lighter. But yeah, it would be kind of fun to create a dungeon that was created by a trickster mage, for example. Like a mage thief with a very, very deadly sense of humor. And the only way to get through it is actually to, like, have a sense of humor of your own. There we go. That looks better. So now I'm going to put a little bit of under reflection on some of these areas as well. And get my highlight out here on the head of that. I saw the new edition of Shadowrun had a Humble Bundle up. I don't know if it's over. I was tempted. I do love Shadowrun. Been a long time since I played it though, like eons. Serious eons. A little bit of white there to bring out that shine. Want to make sure that you bring up the same through here. But yeah, Silly Dungeon could be fun. A little bit of under reflection. It helps to make that look shinier. A little bit of the edge there. That's looking better. And I want to actually pick up these little nails. I'll do that with my bronze color. They're so small it probably won't register, but as long as we do a lighter color in the middle of those little divots, we're good. There we go. Now I need to get this bracer here. So yeah, NMM takes a while. Like, it's taking us a while to do all this. So a light on the upper side. Now we're going to focus that light right toward the middle, just like wherever the light's going to fall off. And the axe, that point was right under that handle, right? The light's going to fall off right as the axe itself like kind of like falls down, right? Because it's a curve on the top, but then it's super flat. Whereas here, this is a more rounded surface. So instead of it cutting off right here at the top, it's going to cut off in the middle because that's where the light's going to fall off. Oh, in my my outside of my house, you mean, Hendrik? There are some interesting ones. go. Now we need an under reflection. I also feel like I need to do a white edge around all of this blade here. So not quite the same, but just a real delicate light edge around that would be nice. There, that's better. Mostly I just want today to be a nice calm day with no hiccups so I can get work done. That's my wish for today. It's coming up on the last of the month and I've got a lot of work to do. There we are. So that's looking pretty good. I think I want a little bit more light here. We're running out of time on our stream. And then a little bit on the helmet and we'll call it for today. A little bit more of a highlight here in the middle. A little bit more highlight on the tops of these ridges for sure. So making the helmet come out a bit more. And we do need a near white highlight up here too. It's a helmet, but yes, it looks like shiny eyebrows, you're right. Kind of bring this light down here. Yeah, I don't think we're going to finish the whole helmet, sadly. We're running out of time. And I don't want to go too late. But we at least bring down this a little bit, bring this up a little bit. Bring that outside edge up. But yeah, we're getting there. Front looks better. So let's back out. So now he's much shinier. Look at all that shiny we've got on him now, guys. So that's where we're going to end it today. One more stream should get us done with the NMM and probably done with the leather as well. Looking at the things. And then we just need to do a little bit of wood highlighting on the spear. We finished the steel today. And then we just got to give him eyes. So yeah, everything but the base will probably be done next stream. I think he's looking good. Thanks for tuning in, you guys. Thanks for hanging out and chatting. I hope you have a fantastic day. Much better than my yesterday. Yes, and come back at 2 p.m. USA Central Time for The Crafty Creative with Josh. Thanks, everybody, and I hope you have a great one. I'll see you tomorrow. Oh, tomorrow will be, Wizard. Tomorrow will be Wizard. Da-da-da! All right, see you later. Bye!